Hey guys, and welcome to the June 3rd, Monday, June 3rd episode of the MMAOB Daily Show. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin. Welcome to June, guys. We're here, so good to be here. I'm good. I'm glad to be here with you guys talking about the latest news in MMA. First and foremost, you can follow me on Twitter at MMAdamMartin. This podcast is hosted by MMAOddsbreaker.com. You can find it on our YouTube channel. Also, I work for SureDog.com, BJPen.com, MMAnews.com, and MMAratings.net. So check out all those websites. But of course, my home is MMAOddsbreaker.com. I'm the lead writer for that website and the lead podcaster right now. So definitely, support us, guys. Subscribe. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. I've been enjoying doing it. Also, we have a new podcast there by Mike's MMA Picks. He's doing a breakdown show as well. So definitely check that out. He's doing a great job with that. It's nice to see that we have some video content going up these days. Hopefully that poster holds. It's fallen a couple times. I hope that doesn't happen again. But it should be okay now. I've changed the way the thing's being held up. So gotta give those guys a shout out there. Bad Boy, that's my sponsor there. So thanks to Wilder for sending that banner and those giant gloves down there over to me. So definitely give those guys a follow as well. Great MMA clothing. When I used to train, I wore Bad Boy clothing. They were the best. So let's just get right into it, guys. I'm just gonna break down UFC Fight Night 153 today. Talk about what happened on this card. Definitely an interesting event. A lot happened to talk about. So first off, main event of the evening: Anthony Smith against Alexander Gustafsson. Smith submitted Gustafsson in the fourth round via rear naked choke. Definitely surprised by the finish in this one. It was a close fight up until the finish. I thought Smith probably won the first two rounds. Gustafsson won the third. It looked like he was taking care of business and then made a mistake and got taken down and got his back taken in the fourth round. And Smith took advantage of it and submitted him. So that's another submission by rear naked choke for Smith. He also submitted Volkan Oezdemir via rear naked choke. Guy's really good, man. 4-1 now at light heavyweight. And besides John Jones, he's probably the top light heavyweight in the world right now. He did lose to Jones just a couple months ago, so he'll probably need another win or two, I'd say, before he gets back in that conversation. Who knows? Maybe Thiago Santos beats Jones. Probably not, but who knows? But Smith's right there. I mean, he's definitely a top three guy right now in that division. This was a great win, by far the biggest win in his career. And you could look at his other wins and say, yeah, Shogun and Rashad Evans were kind of washed up at that point, and Volkan's kind of inconsistent. But this is a big win over Gustafsson, who retired after the fight, and that's pretty much the main storyline coming out of this one. Gustafsson left his gloves in the ring after the fight, octagon, I should say, and retired. Back-to-back losses to Smith and Jones by stoppage, and he hasn't won a fight since 2017 against Glover Teixeira, so it's been over 2 years since he's won a fight and decided to hang it up. Only 32 years old, so I feel like he'll be back at some point. You don't really see guys in MMA retire in their 30s, very rare, and you don't see MMA retirements last very long. The guys usually do come back at some point. I think we will see him at some point, probably not this year, maybe not next year, but I think within the next couple of years he'll be back and he'll fight again, probably in Sweden again. I can see why he retired this time, because this was a devastating loss in front of his hometown and stuff, but he'll be back. I definitely feel like he'll be back at some point. And the guy's still one of the best, top 10 light heavyweights of all time, I'd say. And he's been probably top 5 in the world for the last decade. So he'll be back, great fighter. But for now, Smith's the man. Great win for Smith, 4-1 now at light heavyweight. Guy's a beast. Definitely a big fan of Anthony Smith. Also in the light heavyweight division, the co-main event, we had Alexander Rakic brutally knock out Jimmy Manuwa via head kick knockout in the first round, just 47 seconds into the fight. Amazing win for Rakic. This guy's a stud. 27 years old, 12-1, 4-0 in the UFC, 10 wins by stoppage. Guy's a beast. You talk about like the next wave of light heavyweight contenders. Rakic is one of those guys. Him and Johnny Walker. Dominic Reyes is another guy. This guy's 6'5", 78-inch reach. He's a beast, man. I think he's a massive stud, just prospect, I should say. He's a contender at this point. Guy's a stud, like I said, man. I think he's going to be a contender for a long time. I could see him possibly, fighting John Jones in a couple more fights. He definitely needs a few more. I mean, beating Jimmy Man was a good win, but it's not like the win that gets you a title shot. But it definitely puts him on the map, and this is probably the knockout of the year so far. It was a great win for him. So good for Rakic. The guy's a stud. And then for Jimmy Manuwa, 4 straight loss, 3 of them by knockout. Guy's 39 now. Looks like he's on the decline in his career. Hasn't won a fight since March 2017 over Corey Anderson. That does show that he still has power, but it's been a couple of years now, and he's getting knocked out in brutal fashion and quickly too. So Manuwa's had a good career. He started late in MMA, so he didn't have the run that a lot of guys had. I should say a long run, but definitely he's been a solid fighter in the UFC. He's gonna, what is he at? 4, 6, and 6. So he's a 500 guy now, which is crazy. He started off with a 14-fight win streak in his career, and then since then just one, two, three, and six, 3-6 since the 14-0 start to his career. So he's definitely on decline, but still a fun fighter to watch. I don't think the UFC cuts him. He's too exciting to let go, even though he's getting up there in age and even though he's been losing. I think they'll keep him around for a bit more. Next fight in the card, Makwan Amirkhani beat Chris Fishgold by submission and anaconda choke. Makwan, that's a good win for him. He's 5-1 now in the UFC, coming off a pretty decent layoff here over a year. Good win for him over Fishgold, who's 1-2 in the UFC. I think he probably gets cut. This guy was winning the fight and then made a mistake and he went for a guillotine choke and got put in his back and then got choked out a second later by Makwan. And it was unfortunate because it came like a minute after getting kicked in the groin really hard by Amirkhani. So that's unfortunate. Fishgold was winning that second round, but bad fight IQ cost him this fight, and it's probably going to cost him his job. I don't see the UFC keep sticking him, keep him around, and I just think he probably goes back to Cage Warriors. I just don't see him being a guy that sticks around the UFC much longer, based on the performances he's had in the octagon so far. Lightweight division, Christos Giagos beat Damir Hadzovic by decision. I was surprised by this one. Definitely didn't see this fight play out the way it did. Giagos just controlled the fight with his wrestling. Really impressive performance here by Giagos. Hadzovic, I don't know, how old is he? 32. He's 3-3 now, I think, in the UFC. So yeah, he's 3-3. This is a bad loss for him. He's looked good at times in the UFC, but this was the kind of loss that shows he's not really a contender. And Giagos' first 2-fight winning streak in the UFC, so good for him. Guy's going to keep his job for a while. Definitely the best win of his career. He's been a guy that's been hyped up for a long time, never put it together. Finally did. So good for him. Also, down the main card, Daniel Tamer beat Sung Bin Jo by decision. Another fight that I kind of didn't really see playing out the way it did. I thought Joe was going to be way more aggressive. He didn't. He just kind of got picked apart and out-wrestled too. Very poor performance by Joe here. Tamer is a really good, I wouldn't say good fighter, but crafty. And this fight showed it. His 3-fight losing streak I don't think was representative of who he is as a fighter. I think he's better than that. Not as good as his brother David. I think David's a better fighter, but this was definitely a big win for him to snap that losing streak and keep his job in the UFC. So good for him. He's now 1-3 in the UFC, but he's coming off a win, so he'll definitely get another fight, I would assume. And for Joe, he'll get another fight too. And I do think the UFC's good. They're going to China in the summer. He'll probably be in that card. I assume a lot of Asian talent will be. He's got to get a win though, because this was a bad performance. On the prelims, I think one of the best fights of the night was Sergey Gandosco against Wassim Akwe in a welterweight bout. Very, very close fight. I did think Gandosco edged it out at the end, just that late burst in the end of the third round. But this was a war. Both guys went at it for the full 15 minutes. Great fight. If they didn't award fight of the night or performance of the night bonuses, this would have won fight of the night, in my opinion. But UFC chose to do 4 performance bonuses, which I'm fine with because the guys that got them were definitely deserving. But for Gandosco, good win for him in his debut. But for Akman, I think he'll be back. He took the fight on really short notice. He's only 5 fights into his career. The guy's solid, man. He's a solid fighter, but Gandosco, way more experience, and that experience, I think, paid dividends in this fight. He got the win. But again, one of the best fights in the card. Another fight that I did not see playing out the way it did, and this was was the biggest upset in the cards as far as odds go. Lena Landsberg beating Tanya Ebinger, and it wasn't just a close decision. This was a lopsided decision. She won 30-26 on 2 of the cards, including mine. Brutal just performance here by Landsberg, just taking Ebinger down, beating the crap out of her, really cut her face open in the first round with an elbow. They call her the elbow princess, and elbow queen, I should say, and the elbow just broke Ebinger's face open, and she never recovered from that. Taken down, beat up, and Tanya Ebinger now, she's 37, and she's lost all 3 of her fights in the UFC. I can't see any way they bring her back. I think, if anything, she should probably retire at this point. She might go back to Invicta. There's no way the UFC will bring her back, though. And it's a shame because, for Ebinger, it took a while for her to get to UFC, and since she's got there, she's lost all of her fights. It's a shame, but it is what it is. That's the sport. Sometimes fighters get to the UFC late and they don't do as well as they would have if they made it earlier. It happens. And for Landsberg, she's 37 too, but this was a really good performance and kind of shows that maybe she's not as old in fight years as her age says. Next up, one of the best fights. Well, I wouldn't say best fights, best performances tonight. And he did win a bonus. Leonardo Santos knocked out Stevie Ray. 2 minutes and 17 seconds in the first round. Brutal knockout, 1-punch knockout, which we don't see very often, especially for a guy like Santos, who's a BJJ artist. Amazing knockout here. Yeah, I mean, he caught Ray with a counter shot, and now Santos is one, two, three. He's 6-0-1 in the UFC, so that's a great record. He has wins over Ray, Adrian Martins, Kevin Lee by knockout, Tony Martin by submission. This guy's really good. He hasn't lost since 2009, so that's a decade ago. Guy's good, man. He deserves a top 10 opponent. He really, really does. So I hope the UFC gives it to him. He's 39 years old. He's an older guy, but he's clearly talented, and he deserves a really big step up. And for Stevie Ray, I think he gets cut. This guy's been a really big disappointment now. 6-4 record, so the record's not that bad, but he just hasn't looked good, and he's been finished a couple of times now in his last few fights. I don't see much left in the tank for Ray in the UFC, at the UFC level. He probably goes back to Cage Warriors. I think it makes more sense there. Another great performance, Frank Kamako destroying Nick Hine. How did he not win a bonus? Come on, this guy should have easily won a bonus. I would have given him one over Amirkhani. I don't know. This is crazy. I personally thought this was an amazing performance by Frank Kamako. The use of the body kick was absolutely insane in this fight. He just went to work on Nick Hine the whole fight with that body kick. And eventually Hine couldn't take it and just kind of cowered up and got finished by punches late in the second round. So good for Kamako. He's 2-3 now in the UFC, but all his fights are exciting. And for Nick Hine, he actually did retire as well after the fight. It was kind of a quiet retirement. Retires with a 4-4 record in the UFC, 3 straight losses at his UFC career. 35 years old. So yes, I think he's done. I don't see him coming back, especially since he's, I believe, a police officer. So he has another job. He doesn't need this fighting thing anymore, and I don't see him coming back. Going down the card, Bia Malecki beat Judith Santana in a women's bantamweight bout. This was a weird fight. Santana was destroying Malecki with her jab and her right hand in the first round. Just looked like it was going to be a dominant win. And then second round, she goes for a takedown. Malecki actually sweeps her hands on the top and just pounded her out and then cut the back and choked her out. So really bad finish here for Santana in a fight she was winning. She should have won this fight. And for Malecki, gets her first win in the UFC in Sweden too. So good for her. It was a big win for her, but I don't see that much upside here. I don't know. Like, she did get the win. She got the finish. Good for her. But there's something about the way she performed that wasn't, ideal, I should say, especially that first round. She was getting picked apart. And I'm surprised she actually ended up getting the win, but good for her with that comeback. Light heavyweight bout up next. Devin Clark beat Darko Stosic by decision. Again, another fight I was surprised, but I thought Stosic would win this fight, and I thought he would take it to Clark. But Clark actually dropped Stosic in the first round, and he never recovered really from that. He won the second round, but the third round Clark won as well. Edge of decision. Good for Clark. Again, he's a guy who's talented, but he hasn't won a fight by stoppage in the UFC, which concerns me. 4-3 now in the UFC, all wins by decision. He's got to get a finish at some point. And for Stosic, they call him the protege of Mirko Krokop. He's got to get another win, though. This was a bad performance by him. He'll be back. He'll get another fight, but he's got to pick up a win in his next fight, I think, because that light heavyweight division, like I said, has some good prospects coming up, and he's kind of been lost in the shuffle now, especially with this loss. And opening up the card, the curtain jerker, Joel Alvarez finished Daniel Barwardo. Second round with strikes on the ground. Barwardo was winning this fight, and again, he got tired, and Alvarez took advantage and finished him. That's not the only fight in this card where that happened, where someone got tired. We saw that with Santana. We saw it with Gustafsson, Fishgold. Very strange card. A lot of guys that you didn't expect to have huge cardio issues end up having them. So, poor performance here by Barwardo in a fight he should have won, I think. And Alvarez, good for him getting his first win in the UFC, opening up the card. So we actually had 7 finishes, which is pretty solid. The UFC gave a 4 performance on the night bonuses to Smith, Rakic, Amirkhani, and to Santos. I'm okay with all those, except I think I would have given one to Frank Kamako instead of Makran Amirkhani, but Amirkhani was on the main card, and the UFC loves this guy, so I'm not surprised there. And that's pretty much it. I mean, overall, I think it was actually a decent card. There was a few fights that kind of dragged on the open up the main card. The Tamer and Gallows fights weren't that good, but overall, a pretty solid card, and a lot to talk about, obviously, especially with Gustafsson retiring and with Smith getting that win and Rakic emerging as a contender. Definitely a solid card, I'd say I'd probably give it like a 7.5 out of 10 or something, 8 out of 10. It was a good card. It was definitely a good card, and it ended quickly too. It was like 5 hours long or something, 5.5 hours long. I'm cool with that. I love those shorter cards. To start early in the morning. We started at 10 a.m. and finished at, I think, 3:30, 3:45. So that was great. I did the Sherdog play-by-play again. I hope you guys checked that out. It was fun to do, as always. I think that's it. We're going to talk about today, guys. I'll be back tomorrow breaking down any other news. Only other thing I guess I could say is a lot of these MMA websites just announce a bunch of hirings, but to be honest, they didn't hire me, so I personally don't really care. I mean, I'm happy for these guys. They got better jobs, I guess, and I know a lot of these writers. I've been in the business for a long time myself, but it seems to be a huge talking point in the world of MMA right now, and that's cool for those guys that got their jobs. But for me, I personally, I don't know, like I don't see myself subscribing to The Athletic. I don't see myself paying really for content. I know I'm not the only person who's out there like that. So I'm just being honest. I respect all those writers, and I respect what The Athletic does. I think they pay the writers really well, and they have really good writers on their staff. Not just for MMA, for baseball, basketball, etc. But especially MMA fans. I know I'm not the only person. Most MMA fans won't pay for the pay-per-views. That's the truth. Most MMA fans want everything for free. So I don't really see them paying for the content. But again, I hope everything works out well for those guys. But it doesn't affect me since I wasn't the one who hired. So congrats to those guys. But it's a talking point in the world of MMA. I had to bring it up. But this is not something that really concerned me. And no, I wasn't one of the hires. But who knows? Who knows what happens in the future? For now, though, I'm very happy working for MMAOddsbreaker.com. I'm very happy working for Showdog.com, MMAnews.com, MMARings.net, and BJPenn.com. Check all those websites out, guys. I contribute to them on a daily basis, so check all those websites out. And of course, follow me on Twitter at MMAdamMartin. And follow, subscribe to this podcast on our YouTube channel, also our SoundCloud. The iTunes thing there's been some issues with that, like I've said, but hopefully in the future we'll be able to take that care of that. But for now, definitely check us out on YouTube, guys. I'm loving doing the show every day, Monday to Friday. It's a lot of fun. We're going to do the 5. I'll be doing the 5 shows this week. And then me and Cole will be back. We'll be doing the UFC 238 preview, I think Wednesday or something like that. Probably Wednesday or Thursday, doing the UFC 238 preview, also on this channel. So check it out, guys. I hope you guys had an awesome weekend. And I'll be back tomorrow morning talking about any other news that breaks in the world of MMA.